This guy has a lot of energy, and he is going to talk to us today about what innovation's got to do with it. What is the impact of inclusion on innovation in the workplace? Senior executives are recognizing that a diverse set of experiences, perspectives, backgrounds are crucial to innovation and the development of new ideas. This is going to be led by Ryan Mitchell, Vice President, Talent Development and Diversity and Inclusion at Texas Capital Bank. Ryan Mitchell is the modern voice for the modern worker. As a speaker, coach, and talent development consultant, Dr. Ryan has a mind for business and a heart for people. Having successfully led teams in finance, healthcare, and nonprofit organizations, Ryan brings a unique mix of practical experience and professional research. Come on up, Ryan.
Hello. Hi. A real-life public servant was due to receive his 20-year service anniversary. The vice mayor showed up to his office. He showed up to the office, but nobody was there. I'll show the next slide. So the vice mayor asked the neighbor of the person whose office, the guy who's receiving the 20-year service award, like, where's he been? The neighbor says, who? I haven't seen that guy in years. Turns out that upon further research, yes, the guy was on payroll. And yes, the computer indicates that he had logged in, but only sparingly over the last 6 years. In fact, he hadn't logged in the last 3 years on his computer, and the 3 years before that, it was sparingly. The badge access indicated he hadn't been there for 6 years. Well, oddly enough, this is a true story. In fact, this actually happened, and the guy had to repay a year's worth of his salary for his gross negligence. Now, I bet you're thinking, well, what's that got to do with me? But I bet it has a lot more to do with the company that you work for than you think. Yes, we all have measures in place to show if our employees actually show up to work. But how many of our employees do we see every single day but have left their innovative minds at home? And we haven't seen those for years. That's what we're talking about today, innovation. Now, I want to first thank the council for inviting me back again. It's always a pleasure to speak before you. And I want to thank each of you for being here. And I know you could be on a plane or somewhere else, so thank you for your time and attention today. And we're going to make this fun and interactive. So as we're thinking about our staff, innovation can't happen if the mind is absent, because creativity is a big part of innovation as well. So what's inclusion have to do with the fact that innovation is there? Because I know we're here, you got this D&I guy talking. Like, what's inclusion have to do with innovation? Well, I'm glad you asked, because of the fact that inclusion is directly correlated with that of innovation. In fact, a 2013 study by Hewlett, Marshall, and Cherubin stated that inclusive firms are 45% more likely to report a growth in market share and 70% more likely to report new captured market share. So inclusion and innovation go hand in hand. As we're thinking about this even further, I'm stuck on the fact that when we think about inclusion, here's what most people look like. Here you go talking about diversity again. Here you go talking about inclusion again. And why do people have that mental block as it relates to diversity and inclusion? It's because over the last 20 years, a lot of these strides that we would have thought would be further along haven't really been moved. But today we're going to talk about what we can do as leaders to make sure we're moving forward in the cause of inclusion and how that will have a direct impact on our staff. As an HR professional, I will admit that inclusion initiatives are not effective unless there are outcomes and specific goals that are in mind when the inclusion initiatives are placed in place as well. Does that make sense? Oh, okay. Just want to make sure you all are still awake. So here's a team. This is a team of marketers. In fact, it's a diverse team of marketers. Let's go over the makeup of this team. First, we have an Asian American man, age 45. We have a white woman from the UK, age 57, on the team. There's 2 white males, both American. One's 32, one's 57, one's 55. We have a Latina American, and she is 28. Have an African American male, age 38. And then we have another white woman who is American born, and she's age 40. As it looks, this team is diverse. At the face of it, it is. Now, this team is tasked with marketing a brand new children's platform for H&M, the retailer. And over the course of nights and weekends and long days, and they are looking at all of the marketing information, they're looking at all the models information, they're looking at all of the contracts that have to be signed to make sure that they can push their product to the fullest potential. And after this team of diverse professionals gets finished with its wonderful task, this is the outcome. You may have seen this ad before, because in 2016 it insulted millions of people by perpetuating a stereotype that is pervasive. Well, if this team of diverse professionals was right there in the room, had the seat at the table, whose job was it to protect against this? Let's look back at the team again. So we have a diverse team of people. But I think a lot of times what happens is we really are stuck on the fact that we don't necessarily understand why inclusive environments matter in the discussion of diversity and inclusion. Yes, the team is diverse, but we still had this as the outcome. So now, in thinking about this, most of you may not understand, and most people at work don't understand the differences between diversity and inclusion. So let's make that easy, all right? You guys supposed to say all right. All right? All right. So diversity is different from inclusion, and we want to make this very easy to understand so that it's digestible and we can take it back to our workplaces as well. You know, as professionals in this field, we even blur the terms when we're announcing it. We say D&I, or we say DEI if we even add the term equity in the middle of diversity and inclusion, right? And most of the people are still thinking like, what? And what does that have to do with anything? Well, diversity itself is the mix. It's the mix, it's the ingredients, it's actually the makeup, the physical makeup. There are multiple ways to be diverse as well. So as we're thinking about diversity and inclusion initiatives, teams can be diverse in inherent and in acquired ways. So as we're thinking about this, diversity can include race and gender, which are the 2 most pervasive things that we talk about. Yet it can also include sexual orientation and ethnicity. It can also include physical ability as well, and gender identity. Those are all inherent traits that diversity brings. Those are part of our mix, and each of us has a mix as an individual. There are also acquired traits that add into our mix. Those acquired traits can be how we communicate, where we work, our experiences. They can also include our education and beliefs, family makeup or family construct, and even our income and personality. This all feeds into our mix or our diversity that we bring to the table. Now, if that is what diversity means, if diversity is the mix, then what is inclusion? Inclusion is how we use our mix. And as leaders, it's important for us to use our mix to deliver tangible and specific outcomes. You know, there's a quote here that I will read to you. So, because many of us think that diversity is tangible and inclusion is intangible, but it's not quite that simple. The quote I'll show for you as well. Deborah L. Plummer, who is a psychologist, stated that inclusion isn't a feeling that someone has. If that were true, we would never be able to achieve the goal since it would be so subjective. So it's not just tied to a feeling that someone has of the state of being included. There must be more to it. So as we're thinking about this, inclusion is not flowers and balloons and unicorns. Tell the truth, that's what you often think when you think about a diversity and inclusion issue. When done right, inclusion can create conditions that leverages the differences that appear in order to achieve a desired result. That's inclusion, and that's the importance. Now, innovation is one of the outcomes. It's the main outcomes that we will speak to as it ties to inclusion, because those two have that direct correlation as well. So as we're looking at this, leaders who create diverse and inclusive teams are more likely to unleash value-added thoughts by their staff. And also, your staff who are feeling included are 35% more or 3.5 more times likely to actually speak up and actually add their creative ideas to the mix. When you've done these things right, as a leader, how do you know? You know because, as you see here, you as the leader, or those people who are in leadership positions, and leadership, no, is not necessarily an authoritarian position. It's anyone in the company that can do this. You want to make sure that your staff is heard. You want to make it safe to provide ideas. We also want to make sure that we give our team members decision-making authority, even smaller decisions as well. This all creates an inclusive environment with the goal of innovation being in mind. We also want to be able to share credit for success and give actionable and timely feedback to our staff. That too creates inclusive environments. Ultimately, we want to be able to implement the feedback that we're asking for from the team as well. So creating inclusive environments is critical for us to add innovation to our staff. Now, how do you know, or how can you recognize that our staff feels included? The first thing, employees can already tell, because they know that they feel respected as valued members of the team. Employees can also tell because they understand that they are compensated fairly, and yes, they are talking about it, their compensation, as it relates to their peers. Thirdly, people also know that they feel included because employees have access to the proper tools and information they need to get their job done and complete their tasks. Inclusive environments also make sure that employees can shape and influence the values and the norms that are in our companies as well. So this is how we know as employees and how our staff knows that they're feeling included. Now, if this is the case, then what's innovation? Well, this is innovation. These are just a couple of terms that business leaders have used to define innovation for their firms. Just a few. No wonder it's so confusing to us when we say the terms innovation. There are more definitions to innovation than probably any other word as it relates to corporate jargon and corporate speak, even more than diversity and inclusion. And I wonder why. And it's because Robert Brand said, innovation at a company level really needs to be agreed upon at each organization to make sure that everybody involved is aligned and that it's also a strategic move. This is critical for us to be able to define innovation as you go back to your workplaces to make sure that you are creating that innovative culture. Where are we in the first place? What does innovation mean to company A versus company B? Having this conversation is important. But what often happens is someone in the C-suite says, well, our competitors are doing X, Y, Z as it relates to technology. So we need to really get more innovation. Yeah, more innovation, everybody else says in the C-suite. And then you start hearing words like, we got to be more innovative. We got to be more innovative. But nobody says what that means for the firm. So first of all, we have to define it for our team. Even before that, we have to look introspectively to see how inclusive our cultures are, and are we creating an environment that once our C-suite says we need to create more, have more of an innovative environment, are we even getting the ideas from the ground level? Are we able to even hear from people who actually are doing the work? Because that requires inclusion. So what's inclusion got to do with it? Everything. As we're thinking here, innovation for our purposes today, just because we have a mix of different companies and different organizations, we will have just one definition for inclusion just for our room. Is that all right? All right. So innovation here is the way a company brings constant value to their shareholders and their stakeholders. Constant value. Innovation is measurable. Now, one thing I'd like to dispel as we're defining the term innovation is the fact that creativity and innovation are two different things. When we think about those terms that our C-suite pushes down and says, we have to be more innovative, those charges and those edicts, a lot of times they're talking about creativity. Now, creativity is creating those ideas, a new, fresh, innovative, a new, fresh, and a great way to get something done. Innovation is the implementation of executing that plan. It's more than just the idea itself. Of course, that's a part of it, yet we need to implement. So being able to have solid project management to bring forth this plan, bring the plan to fruition is critical. The University of Massachusetts Medical School came up with 8 inclusion factors that lead to the key outcome of innovation. 8 inclusion factors include: employees must understand that there is a common purpose amongst everybody in the organization. Another one is the fact that there must be trust within our organization as well, if we are going to have a more inclusive environment. Additionally, we need to appreciate individuality of our staff as well. On top of that, our employees should have a sense of belonging and access to opportunities within our firms. Otherwise, we keep building people up and they keep floating away to other firms and other organizations.
getting them ready for the next person, the next boss. We must have equitable rewards. So when we're thinking about having an inclusive environment that sparks innovation as the outcome, yes, even rewards and recognition is a part of that conversation, or it should be at least. We can't create an innovative culture that is sparked by inclusion if we don't have cultural competence, meaning understanding where people are in our society as well. Finally, this word respect just comes up over and over and over again. And we write it, but we have to do it as well. So, with this in mind, let's think about our firms. Using the Hoover app, we will answer a few polling questions. If you don't have the Hoover app, we've also provided these, and you should have been distributed those polls as well. Everyone should have it. So open up the Hoover app, and you can answer your questions there. Once you answer the polls, we'll be able to see here the responses real time. It is anonymous. It's not tied to your name or anything as well. So let's answer these 8 questions to see how inclusive our firms are as it relates to creating a more innovative culture. Does everyone have the Hoover app open? Or the app for this as well? You're opening the polls. Where are the polls located? The polls in the messages? In the messages section. Thank you. Find it? Perfect. Let's start with the first one. In your opinion, do employees at your organization experience a connection to the organization's mission, vision, or values on a scale of 1 to 5? 1 meaning low, 5 meaning high. The majority of your staff says yes, between 3 and 5 as well. Let's move to the next one. In your opinion, do employees at your organization experience a connection, experience the confidence that policies, practices, and procedures of the organization will allow them to bring their best full self to work? 1 low, 5 high. And we want to reveal it. So a lot are here. 5, yes. That's great. We still have some 3s as well. Maybe there's some work to be done in some of our firms around this topic. Next slide, please. In your opinion, do you believe that at your organization, employees are valued and can successfully navigate the organizational structure in their expressed group identities? 1 low, 5 high. Yes. We still have some 1s and some 3s here as well. So there's some places we can grow in this area. You can complete these on your paper and nobody will know what you think about your book. Next slide. In your opinion, at your organization, do employees experience their social group identities as being accepted and connected in your organization? I'm encouraged by the amount of 5s that we see as well. Yet, I still see there's 2s and threes. That means there is work to be done even around here as well. Next slide. In your opinion, do employees at your organization find and utilize support for their professional development and advancement? One's low, five's high. What did you say? 4 threes here, and 2s, even 1s. Next slide. In your opinion, do employees perceive your organization as having equitable compensation practices and non-financial incentives? 1 to 5. Again, still some work to be done for some of our firms, additionally. Next slide. In your opinion, do employees at your organization, or actually this is miswritten. In your opinion here, let me look at this. In your opinion, does your organization, that's how it should read. In your opinion, does your organization have the capacity to make creative use of its diverse workforce in a way that meets the business goals, enhances performance, and achieves the mission? So does your organization in general have this? 1 to 5. Yeses and nos. As we're thinking about this, we can move forward. As we're thinking about this, though, there's obviously work that can be done for our staff. So what does it take to be innovative at a staff level? So quick story. There's a kindergarten teacher, and she gave free time for art. During this free time for art, she was walking around the room and she noticed that some of her kindergartners were drawing cars, and some of them were scribbling, and others were sketching things. But she stopped at one particular student's desk, and she noticed that the little girl was drawing a face. The teacher said to the little girl, "Keisha, what are you drawing?" To that, Keisha said, "I'm drawing the face of God." And the teacher said, "Now, Keisha, nobody knows what the face of God looks like." And to that, Keisha said, "They will in a minute." It takes a certain amount of bravery to be innovative and to participate in an innovative culture. It takes a lot of creativity as well, and some boldness to boot. And how many of our people are being pushed down by the thoughts about being shut down at work? So as you think about this, Robert Brand said one more thing about innovation. He actually created an acronym around it. It's aptly called innovation. So you see here that I is for inspire. To create an innovative culture, it's important for us to inspire innovation every single day. And even at the interactive level, in the interaction level between manager and employee to employee, and employee to customer or client as well. We must inspire our staff to be innovative. Additionally, no risk, no innovation. It takes a certain amount of risk involved in having an innovative culture and cultivating that innovative culture as well. Because innovation is tied even more to the implementation than it is to just the creative idea, there may be a need to have a new product development process at our firms to make sure that we can actually plan these and execute these ideas as well. So again, and really think about that too. To be more innovative, We have to determine who is responsible for innovation at your firm. And so after we define it for our firms, it's important for us to say, now who's responsible? Whose job is it for us to be innovative? How do we capture that information as well? How do we document it? What if the idea doesn't go through this time? How do we hold on to it for next time? When does it bubble back up? All of these things are part of our process, yes, yet it's also a part of our ownership strategy as well. Value creation. It's much more about how do we move the dial and execute on our company's mission, vision, values. And all of us want to make more money and serve more people for our firms. Having an innovative culture is all about that. And having an inclusive culture is all about having an innovative culture. So value creation is paramount also. Then we have accountability. Yes, that is another word like a respect. It hangs around on the walls of our offices as we walk to the restroom or our break rooms. We see accountability. But are we really accountable? Who's accountable to who? Are we bringing our innovative minds? Are we accountable to that? Or have we not shown up for work in the last 6 years too? Training and coaching must be a part of the strategy as well. And idea management, that gets us into, whether the idea goes through now, or what's the project plan and the process plan, and what happens if it goes stale now, but it comes back later. We gotta have that management strategy also. Most importantly, we must observe and measure our innovation. If it's not measurable, it didn't happen. Like people often say in the mortgage field, right? It's not documented in this particular system, it didn't happen. If it's not measurable, it didn't happen. Finally, when we're measuring, we're looking to see net result and net reward. How did the dial move for us and for our firms? Was it great? Was it slightly? What are we going to do next time to improve the process? Now, there's a risk. There's a risk for all of this. Let's say we go back to work on fire. Say, this is what I picked up at this conference. We're going to create an innovative culture that is inclusive. We're going to do that. We know that diversity is the mix. We know that inclusion is how we use the mix to deliver results, right? We know that in what innovation is. It's constant improvement. We know that. We do this at work. It's important for us to also make sure that we're training our staff and our management and adding some expectation, because if we spark the innovative minds of our staff and their managers are not listening to them, they'll feel excluded. So innovation only connects with the alert mind and the seeking spirit. So we must make sure that we are all accountable to the process and the cause of innovation. And in doing so, we don't shut people down. We don't embarrass them for having an idea that may not have been the one that we should use at this moment. We want to create that inclusive environment that makes people more interested in adding to the whole mix of ideas to make sure that we are implementing the best one. We want to welcome debate. It's not a my way or the highway, or this is the one and done type of process. We want to welcome debate because it's healthy in inclusive environments. We want to share the credit. Now, what's inclusion got to do with it again? Everything. And so, to recap, diversity is the mix. Everybody say the mix. So now we say diversity is the mix. We know what diversity is. Inclusion, again, is how we use those differences, how we leverage them to deliver results. And the results that we're looking for now is innovation. Innovation is a deliverable that brings constant value.
And the key word in there is deliverable in value. Finally, introspection is what we've been asked to do today. Because introspection is seeing where we are in the process of this at our firms. Have we made it? Are we 5s across the board? If so, then how innovative are we? If you have 5s across all of those questions that you answered, if you were blessed and fortunate to work for a firm that actually does that, then you are well positioned to start the process of innovation with your staff. If you haven't scored 5s across the board, we have some work to do to make sure that we have an inclusive environment where we can use the valuable, innovative ideas of our staff. So, this gentleman walks into a bank. It was a high-end bank in downtown Dallas. The gentleman parks his car, goes into the bank. He has a nice suit on, and he goes in and asks for a loan, a personal loan, for $100. The collateral for this $100 loan at this high-end bank was his new luxury Tesla. To that, the bank manager thought, this is too good to be true. We'll definitely sign him up, and we'll charge him 20% interest on this $100 loan. So the man left his keys, he parked his car, and he went off. A year later, the gentleman comes back for his keys, having paid back the $100 loan along with the 20% required interest. As the bank manager went to go get the keys to this Tesla, he handed the man the keys and said, now I've just got to know, did you need the $100 that bad? And then the gentleman said, you got to think outside the box, sir. See, I knew I'd be out of town on business for the last year. I was going to be out of the country. And where else could I find a parking space for a year for just $20? As we're thinking about this, we're creating innovative cultures. It is important for us to think about where we are in the process. If you, for any reason, need some consultation on that, reach out to me. My information is there on the sheets that are provided. If you need someone to come speak at your firm or at your conference, then just let me know. Again, I'm Ryan Mitchell. It's been a pleasure.